What's up, guys? Welcome back to Among the Fins. I am your host, Aaron, and thank you so much for joining me on another Request Wednesday, where I do a review of one of the requested albums off of the whiteboard. And today we're going to be talking about the album Throes of Joy and the Jaws of Defeatism by the band Napalm Death. Napalm Death is a grindcore death metal band from the UK. They started about 1981. They're almost 30 years old, and they have 16 studio albums so far. These guys are like the grandfathers of freaking grindcore. They've been around forever, and they've also have had a lot of different lineup changes. None of the original members are in the band anymore, but I believe ever since 1992, I believe the vocalist and the bassist have been the same ever since then, or at least they've been in the band the longest. Throes of Joy and the Jaws of Defeatism. Seriously, I'm just gonna call it Throes of Joy from now on because it takes me at least 5 tries to be able to get it out every time I have to say the album name. It is almost an inspiring album. It's a lot more lighthearted than I thought it was gonna be, that's for sure, giving just this band and the album name. But it does touch on different aspects of life that do cause defeatism and do kind of suck joy, but at the same time, it kind of shows you how to avoid that and to still have joy even in all these horrible surrounding times and just all the bad stuff that's going on. The production is exactly what you would expect from a grindcore record. It's very rough, cluttered. There's no isolation, there's no smooth edges. It's kind of thrashy. It's like a rough, raw, dirty mix. Even though it's intentional, that's the best way how I could describe it. It's just a dirty mix, and it sounds great. The first song on the album, F the Factoid, which obviously is not censored on the album or in the song, and it is spoken quite a bit, just jumps right into it. It doesn't hold anything back. The aggression starts off quick and heavy. It's got mild blast beats, which I enjoyed. I'm not a huge fan of blast beats. I know, this is a grindcore, it's to be expected. But it does have some more melodic guitar parts and just more melodic passages in general. The vocals are freaking killer. And while I wouldn't say that lyrics are catchy, they do have some pretty good hooks. Backlash Just Because might be my favorite song on the album, mostly for the juicy freaking riffs and the breakdown that goes so much further beyond just mindless chugging to a specific rhythm pattern, but it actually has like a riff and a scale pattern to it, which it just sounds so freaking good. And the song is about being enslaved or being under someone's power, and the repetitiveness in the lyrics don't really become all that tiresome. Even though it is very repetitive, it just pushes the emphasis of the subject even more, which works really well. This song, Joy de ne pas vivre, which I believe that's how it's said, is a French term for being void of joy or having no happiness or basically being like depressed. And the reason for that in the song is because how I took it is because you're paying too much attention to social media and all the negative stuff on the news, and why it's important to be up to date on this stuff. If it's making you depressed and if it's taking over your life, which it's very easy to do, then it's too much. And it's also pointing out how it's like self-inflicted, how people seek out these things and these headline news stuff and these articles, and it's just, yeah. So at the same time, even though this album touches on things that revolve around defeatism, it's also kind of lighthearted in the sense that, you know, it could be avoided. It's your own fault. You know, you're in control still. The song Contagion speaks of greed being contagious and how not only are people greedy, but corporations are greedy, and how they could be more obsessed with money than they are about their consumers or even the well-being of their employees. And the song it's okay all around, but if anything, verse 2, the freaking riffs in it slaps so hard, and that alone is worth listening to Contagion. The song Invigorating Clutch starts out with this really slow guitar passage with really deep growls in the background. And honestly, it's kind of mesmerizing, especially when the verses come in and all the other music joins and it has barky kind of vocals. It sets you in a trance. The songs Flexing of the Muscle and Immoral really show the diversity that Napalm Death really has, especially just in songwriting. Flexing of the Muscle has a more traditional style approach to it. It's very fast-paced, has a vocal cadence that goes along with the rhythm and the music, and it sounds phenomenal. And then Immoral has more of like a nod to the 80s. It's something that like AC/DC would have written, especially in the guitar riff. And that song is more about how we shouldn't reflect on the past and regret it because it's just really it's just toxic. And it's also about trusting people who have no morals, which I guess they kind of go hand in hand. The song Zero Gravitas Chamber comes right after Invigorating Clutch, which really helps pick the pace of the album up again after that slow little break. And it doesn't really have all that many shining moments to it, but it does have some pretty badass musical passages. And it's basically about war for the sake of entertainment and how it's kind of just the reality of war has kind of been taken away from people. The title track song, Throes of Joy, is kind of based on finding joy in the moments of defeat and failure. And it takes a more traditional approach to it. It just feels a lot more old school. And I feel like that was kind of a turnoff for me. I don't know why. Out of all the songs on the album, this one was the least enthralling. The song Acting in Gouged Faith takes a shot at people who have a holier than thou kind of attitude. And while I don't really like songs in this subject, just because people who have that kind of attitude are normally like spewing hate in a way, I guess you can kind of label it as that. But it's just putting a lot of negativity out in the air. And then you have certain bands in the same exact genre who are just spewing hate right back at them and talking about how they want to murder them and bury them and how they're this and that and they're going to go to hell and blah, 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 blah. And it's just way overdone. Heard it 1,000 times. You throw on a grindcore record, this is probably what you're going to hear. But at the same time, Gouged in the Faith is just so much different. It doesn't take that nasty of a shot at people that are like this. It isn't as hateful towards them. I mean, you can't really counteract hate and anger with hate and anger. Otherwise, it's just hate and anger, negativity everywhere. And I feel like Napalm Death avoided that with this song while still keeping the subject the same. A Belly Full of Salt and Spleen is so different from everything else on the album. It's the perfect closing song for this thing. They took a not really a risk, but just an experimentation on this song. I guess it's just different. The vocal choice is great. I loved it. I love it. The whole song is just perfect. Puts a cap on the whole thing. Experimentation wise, it worked out for him. Even though it's weird, the first time you hear it, you might be like, what the hell is this? But then as it goes on, or if you listen to it a couple more times, you'll be like, dang, this is pretty sick. I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't go out of my way to listen to grindcore music at all. Like, it is one of my least visited genres, especially genres of metal. I don't really venture into it. I probably listen to maybe like 5 songs a year, if that, like on my own, if I'm not going to do a review on something. And at the same time, I feel like this is probably one of the best grindcore albums I've ever heard, even though I honestly can't even really say I've gone through an entire album before other than a review. So you could take this whole review with a grain of salt, but I actually enjoyed this album quite a bit. I'd say that this is at least their best album. So with all that said, I gotta give Throes of Joy and the Jaws of Defeatism by Napalm Death a 9 out of 10. And like I said, I don't listen to grindcore that much at all. So if you're like way into grindcore and this is like something you know a lot about, we might completely disagree. So with that said, I would like to know what you guys thought of this album. If you listened to Throes of Joy before, leave a comment below letting me know what you thought. If you haven't and this sounds like something you might be interested in, give it a listen, at least a couple of the songs I mentioned, and let me know what you would rate it. And as always, if you got anything you want me to review, go ahead and leave a comment below letting me know what it is, and we'll throw it on the whiteboard and we will get you squared away. And if you do that, or you just happen to like what you see here and you enjoy my reviews, feel free to subscribe and click the bell icon. That way you get notified when I do upload. That way you don't miss out on any of my future reviews, especially if you leave a request. That way you don't miss out when I make the review, because that does happen quite a lot more often than not. And if you enjoy this review, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy it, then I don't really care. Now, even if you didn't enjoy it, feel free to give me a thumbs down. But at the same time, let me know why you didn't enjoy it. Maybe it was something I did in my review, or maybe you just think that this album sucks and it deserves a bad rating. I'm not sure. I'm giving you guys my opinion, so I'd like to hear yours. And thank you guys so much for watching. It means more than you could ever imagine. I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day or night whenever you happen to be watching this. And I will talk to you guys next time. I was